Hey there! Welcome to Geek Out SA mini episode Top 10 Things. I'm Colleen, and I'm here to talk about 10 of my favorite geeky things. Today, my 10 favorite geeky things we're going to talk about are TV shows. Geeky TV shows to be specific. Because we would be here all day and I wouldn't have just 10. Well, I don't have just 10 geeky shows either, but I narrowed it down. You're going to see me looking down at my list every once in a while. I apologize. My brain doesn't run in reverse, but I'm going to run the list backwards for you so that you can, have that culmination at the end of number 1. So at number 10, I chose Game of Thrones. I really like Game of Thrones as a show. I like where they've gone. I know you're thinking, oh, I threw it down there at number 10 because it's not like the book, and we all know how I feel about things not being like the book. That wasn't the only reason. That's one of the reasons why I put it down there. I think that they've done a lot of good things with the show, but I also think that a lot of the characters that should have been stronger, they've kind of swept to the side or made them not as strong as they should have been. So I kind of have a bias for Game of Thrones, but it did make it to the top 10. So number 10 was Game of Thrones. Number 9 is an oldie but a goodie, and it's Chuck. I mean, Chuck. Who doesn't want to be a super nerd who gets things downloaded into their brain and then all of a sudden they're a super spy? I've always wanted that ever since The Matrix, to be able to like put something in my brain and be able to do it. So Chuck, he can totally do it, still be super nerdy and nice, still get the pretty girl, still have the nerdy friend, have the kind of big bulky like marine friend. I just liked the characterization. They all worked really well together. They were all still kind of derpy to the end. So I really liked that about Chuck. So Chuck was my number 9. At number 8, I chose Buffy. And you're probably like, Buffy, but no Angel on your list? Well, Angel was okay, but Buffy was it. Buffy had a strong female character, Buffy, plus it had Willow, plus it had Angel in it sometimes, and Spike, and Xander, and Giles. It had so many characters. They worked so well together. There was so much angst, and yet there was the caring vampires who wanted to help out. And there was bad guys and apocalyptic things. So I thought all in all, Buffy was a really good show. At number 7, I have Fringe. Fringe is another one of those kooky shows. For me, one of the things that really made Fringe was surprisingly not Leonard Nimoy, but it was Walter. I mean, who doesn't want to have a crazy scientist who's pretty much done a lot to ruin the world come back and still be pretty crazy, but now trying to help the world from all the things he set upon it, and eat some Twizzlers too, and have a weird cow in the background? I mean, who doesn't want a show like that? I want a show like that. They could bring it back. I'd be okay with that. So Fringe made number 7. At number 6, we have another oldie but goodie, a super oldie but goodie, which tells you how old I am. Star Trek. The very first Star Trek. I mean, who didn't grow up and get their first geeky exposure with Kirk and Bones and Spock and Scotty? I mean, Scotty. You gotta love Scotty. He had some of the best lines in the show. But they were all great. And Uhuru and Chekhov and Mr. Sulu, who's like super huge and famous now. But I just loved that show. Everything about that show was great. That was where I first got my geeky, teeth wet. So I say Star Trek number 1. At number 5, we have Quantum Leap. Scott Bakula, so dreamy. But that's not why I chose Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap is a lot of fun. It's almost like a role-playing game on TV. He gets to be a different character every week. He gets to play out that character. He gets to find out what's going on in their lives and figure out how to fix it with the help of Ziggy. Ziggy, come on, Ziggy. You never work. You never tell him what he's supposed to do the first time. We know you're not going to tell him what he's supposed to do the first time. In fact, we were just at a con this weekend, and I stayed up after midnight, which is really late for me, just so I could watch some episodes of Quantum Leap that were on TV. So that's number 5. Number 4, we have Agent Carter. Agent Carter for me was an amazing show. Agent Carter is so classy and sophisticated. She's that old school type of lady who she takes her lumps and she just keeps going and she doesn't complain. And she knows that the men are going to be against her and she doesn't hold that against them. She just goes behind their backs and does what has to be done, like a good woman should. Just kidding, Agent Carter. Agent Carter is awesome because she's totally strong. She shows the men what it's like to be a strong woman, and she doesn't take no for an answer. So I love Agent Carter, and that was at number 4. At number 3, I picked a new show, a really new show, a Netflix show, and I'm always complaining about the Netflix generation, but I picked Daredevil for number 3. Daredevil was super. It just had the perfect amount of characterization. They build you up. You get to know them. It has a super evil, dripping, awesome villain in it. He just brings you so much angst. And then there's fighting. And Daredevil really gets hurt and you're really concerned about him. So I really love Daredevil. I thought Daredevil was awesome. So it made number 3 on my list. Number 2 on my list was The Flash. Man, The Flash ran into my living room and I wish he would never run out. I would watch that show every day. That show is awesome. I love Barry. He's just so sweet and kind, and he just wants to do right by the world. And his whole team, they're so smart and innocent and sweet. And then you have Dr. Wells, and I just think it's all really great. I can't wait to see it next season. The Flash is awesome. And then, drum roll please, at number 1 is The Walking Dead. How can you not love Rick and his family and his baby and Carl and Rick being crazy and psycho and Glenn, and you're like, oh God, the zombies are going to eat them, and you become so attached to these characters that when these big traumatic things happen, they really matter to you and they're really important to you and you're really invested in them. So at number 1 is The Walking Dead. That's the number 1 geeky show for me right now. So let me know what you think. Let me know what your top 10 geeky TV shows are, and if you agree with mine or disagree. Thanks so much for watching, and Geek Out SA.